I've warned for years about the Noahide laws. Many mocked when I first brought this up, and now we see it coming. This is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. Let's talk about it. This is a very important teaching. I'll do everything I can to keep it short and to the point. However, please don't let the brevity of this teaching minimize its importance. I've been receiving tons of emails and messages about the coming Noahide Congress taking place this coming November 2nd through the 6th. This isn't a little get-together about a dream. No, this is a formal groundbreaking to initiate a global governance under a religious authority that's been in the making for decades. Now, before I go any further, let it be known, this is not an anti-Semitic teaching. I have friends who are Jewish, and we have a great respect for one another. That doesn't change the fact, though, of what some Jewish leadership are trying to do around the world. So, what are they trying to do? They've been pushing for a universal, worldwide governing system known as the Noahide laws. This isn't something new. It's been around for a very long time. And, as I said, things are about to get serious in the first week of November, which I find interesting as this Congress begins the day after Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles on the Hebrew calendar we follow. Now, let's get some basic principles established. First, the modern-day Jewish people do not make up all of biblical Israel. They represent those who lived in the land of Judea, which consisted mainly of the tribe of Benjamin and Judah, along with some of the tribe of Levi as well. These tribes later became known as the Southern Kingdom, or Judah. Second, the kingdom of Israel was divided into two, the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. The Southern Kingdom was banished to Babylon from the land because of their disobedience. They returned 70 years later. We read about that return in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. The Northern Kingdom, the other 10 tribes, who were also referenced by the prophets as Ephraim and sometimes as Israel, were banished to Assyria. However, they never returned to the land like the Southern Kingdom did. They ended up assimilating into the nations around the world. This was prophesied to happen by Jacob, Israel himself, in Genesis chapter 48, when blessing Joseph's 2 sons before he died. He gave Ephraim the firstborn blessing and declared he would become a multitude of nations, thus not being a part of the nation of Israel. Third, when coming out of Egypt, the scriptures record how there were many who joined Israel in leaving Egypt. All of them were later incorporated as Israel, seen here in Exodus 14:19, and here in Exodus 16:1. And finally, fourth, these foreigners were to follow the same Torah as given to the native born as given here in Numbers chapter 15. His Torah is made for all. Again, his Torah is made for all. This is fundamental. This is what was given to all Israel, not just a few tribes. It was given to all Israel, all the tribes, and the foreigners who joined to them. Yahweh said, if Israel followed his Torah, the world would recognize them as a wise and understanding people. Isaiah 51 declares how the Torah will be the light for the nations. And Isaiah and Micah prophesy how the nations will come and learn the Torah. They prophesied virtually the same thing, almost word for word. This is the prophesied return of Ephraim, the northern kingdom, as noted by the prophet Jeremiah. Ephraim returning. Though they have become the nations all around, it's prophesied they will return to the Torah. The nations, Gentiles, pursuing the Torah. This was prophesied by Moses in Deuteronomy chapter 4. He declared that after they had been dispersed into the nations, they would return to the ways of Yahweh. Also seen here in Deuteronomy chapter 30. It shows how even though Yahweh dispersed them in judgment, they would return in obedience. But today, there are many Jews who say the Torah is only for the Jews, even though the Jews are only a small fraction of biblical Israel. They say the Torah is only for them. Remember, the Jews don't represent all 12 tribes of Israel, and the rest of the tribes are prophesied as becoming a part of the nations of the world, and they're prophesied as coming back to Yahweh and pursuing His Torah. Yet, many Jews get mad when they see a non-Jewish person pursuing the Torah in any way. So, what are we seeing? It's the parable of the prodigal son, found in Luke 15, being played out before our very eyes. The prodigal son, Ephraim, the northern kingdom, is returning to the father and pursuing his Torah. But the older brother, Judah, is jealous and mad because they're returning. What's the response to this return of the younger brother? The older brother says, "The Torah isn't for you. That's only for us. You follow the Noahide laws." We saw this when we visited Israel back in 2019. While we met some who were actually excited to see us pursuing the Torah, most could care less. However, there's a growing number that are opposed to the Gentiles pursuing the Torah. And some who were with us saw this firsthand. This opposition will only continue to grow as we get closer to the end days. I truly believe when the end times begin, the rule of the Noahide laws will be the law of the Antichrist. In fact, when looking at the white horse of the first 4 seals, we see the rider holding a bow. However, this is not a bow like a bow and arrow. The Greek word is toxin, the exact same word used in the Septuagint describing the rainbow at the time of the flood. So, of course, there are no arrows. The rider on the white horse is actually holding a rainbow. The rainbow is a direct reference to Noah, implying the Noahide laws could actually be what kicks everything off for the seals. This shows just how close we really are. Here's the thing. While they've given us a time for the Noahide laws to be formally initiated through the upcoming Noahide Congress, there's nothing to say the dates for this Congress can't change. War could delay it by weeks, months, even years. Something else could actually give reason to make it happen sooner. The greater focus should be the understanding of just how these Noahide laws will play a role in setting everything up for the Antichrist, which is another thing. The rider on the white horse is not necessarily the Antichrist. As I've said before, if you personify one rider of the 4 horsemen, I believe you need to personify all of them. To me, it's better understood the riders represent a spirit that drives the force of the effects they represent. Now, could the Antichrist be the main player for all of this to begin? Absolutely. But even with that, it doesn't necessitate the rider on the white horse being the Antichrist. It represents the spirit of Antichrist riding in full power more than anything. That being said, when the end days begin, people will see how the Antichrist will go after anyone who pursues the Torah in the faith of Yeshua, in complete alignment with the Noahide laws. As I've mentioned before, the Antichrist will be viewed as the Messiah to the world. this will be especially so to the Jews. And please know, the Jews will not accept anyone as their Messiah unless he's a Jew. Thus, just as Yeshua, the true Messiah, is a Jew, the anti-Messiah will be a Jew as well. Remember, there are two things many modern Orthodox Jews hate. 1, people saying Jesus is the Messiah. And 2, non-Jews pursuing God's law, the Torah. They believe all Gentiles only need to follow the Noahide laws. Knowing these 2 points, please consider who gets persecuted during the end times in Revelation chapter 12. Revelation 12:17. Those who obey God's commandments and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And Revelation 14. Revelation 14:12 says, this calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints who obey God's commandments and remain faithful to Jesus. Though many don't want to accept it, the Antichrist will be Jewish and perceived as the long-awaited Jewish Messiah. And the Noahide laws will be what he governs the world through. So, what exactly are the Noahide laws? In Judaism, the 7 laws of Noah are what's referred to as the Noahide laws, believed as a set of imperatives which, according to the Talmud, were given by God as a binding set of universal moral laws for the sons of Noah, that is, all of humanity. But it must be clearly understood, this set of Noahide laws come from the Talmud. Did you know these 7 laws of Noah were recognized by the United States Congress in the preamble to the 1991 bill that established Education Day? It was in honor of the birthday of a certain rabbi who was the leader of the Chabad movement. Some believe the Noahide laws are a harmless set of general rules. Yet, how they're interpreted is extremely dangerous to everyone. The 7 universal laws of man, the Noahide laws, are listed in the Talmud as this: prohibition of idolatry, prohibition of murder, prohibition of theft, prohibition of sexual promiscuity, prohibition of blasphemy, prohibition of cruelty to animals, requirement to have just laws. You shall set up an effective judiciary to enforce the preceding 6 laws fairly. They sound good, right? But notice how the Sabbath, which was established from creation, is not included. Thus, Gentiles are prohibited from observing the Sabbath. Those who promote these laws are telling people there are 2 sets of laws, one for the Jews and the other for Gentiles. But as noted before, this is not what's given in the Torah, shown here in Exodus 12 regarding Passover, and here in Numbers 15 regarding all the laws of Torah. Yahweh has one Torah, set of instructions for all mankind. Beware of anyone who comes to you saying you only need the laws of Noah to abide by. The enemy is very good at masking a lie. Remember, the enemy won't tell you a bold lie. He makes the lie look good and appealing, as if it's not a lie. Think about it. You don't think the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil actually looked and smelled disgusting, do you? The updated site to Noahide.org now conceals all that used to be in the open. It now says the following under Preserving Justice. Establish a righteous judicial system. Sounds good, right? But whose definition of righteous? A robust and healthy legal system. Again, sounds good. But whose definition of healthy? Administering justice fairly. But whose definition of fairly? Create a society worthy of God's blessings. establishing a system of judges, courts, and officials to maintain and enforce the law is a far-reaching responsibility. Getting the picture yet? This precept translates the ideals of our personal life into a formal order for society at large. It's the extension and guarantees of all the preceding laws. Please note, it doesn't say the name Yahweh and doesn't even fully spell out God. However, even though what they make public is watered down, make no mistake, the tip of the sword is still there. Though the link is not made readily available anymore on the site, it's still there if you dig. This is the new but hard-to-find link to all the 66 sub-laws of the Noahide rule. I'll link it below. Scroll down to number 6, Courts of Justice. Then go to number 16, and you'll read that the court is to administer the death penalty by the sword, i.e., decapitation. Positive Mitzvah 226, Exodus 21:20. The sin shall surely be avenged. Please know the verse it cites has nothing to do with decapitation. And for what it's worth, as of July 2026, there is still no search option on the site. Thus, they make it very hard to find these sub-laws included within these righteous laws. According to the Noahide laws, if one believes in Yeshua as the Messiah, then they're guilty of idolatry. To add fuel to the fire, if you speak the name of Yahweh, you have blasphemed and will be guilty as charged. Your outcome will be decapitation according to the Noahide laws, line 16, under the Courts of Justice section. But why should number 16, the decapitation law, be a focus? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because of this verse in Revelation. Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. I saw thrones on which were seated those who had been given authority to judge. And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded because of their testimony for Jesus and because of the word of God. They had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or their hands. They came to life and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. Thus, the fifth seal, the martyred remnant, being completed. The Noahide laws will be the universal law for all to follow who aren't Jewish. Anyone who holds to the testimony of Yeshua and pursues the Torah will be eliminated. But while many are just now talking about this because of the Noahide Congress, scheduled for the first week of November, this has been getting set up for a very long time. The Anti-Global Semitism Review Act in the United States was signed back on October 8th, 2004. This act mainly applies to anti-Semitism. In essence, if anyone speaks about the state of Israel in a negative light, that person is considered anti-Semitic. Article 5 under Section 4 states, instances of propaganda in government and non-government media that attempt to justify or promote racial hatred or incite acts of violence against Jewish people. This would include anyone who says the Jews were behind Yeshua being crucified is anti-Semitic. Even the New Testament scriptures would be considered anti-Semitic propaganda because it explains it was the Jewish leadership who had Yeshua killed. Therefore, anyone who pursues the New Testament will be considered guilty. Please understand, this will be all over the world thanks to the United Nations Genocide Treaty of 1948. This treaty, or convention, says in Article 2, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. This convention came about because of the Holocaust from World War II. Now, if one causes another mental harm, like speaking the truth about Yeshua being the true Messiah, they will be guilty. This is an established international law. That being said, remember the previously noted section, Preserve Justice, that said, this precept translates the ideals of our personal life into a formal order for society at large. It's an extension and guarantee of all the preceding laws. Again, this will be universal no matter where you live, thanks to the United Nations. And now we can see why Yeshua said in Luke 21, verse 12, "But before all this, they will lay hands on you and persecute you. They will deliver you to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors, and all on account of my name." They will deliver you to synagogues. The Noahide laws are being established with everything to put them into legal action. They just aren't being enforced yet. However, now, this coming November, that's about to change. And anyone found guilty of breaking them can and will be decapitated. So, don't be surprised to hear a law going out someday soon that says, all Gentiles found keeping the seventh-day Sabbath will be found guilty of breaking the Noahide law. They must be punished to the fullest. Decapitation. Or, no Gentile shall be permitted to speak the name of God, Yahweh. Anyone found doing so has committed blasphemy. They are guilty of breaking the Noahide law and shall be punished to the fullest. Decapitation. When you hear of these taking place, remember Revelation 14, verse 12 that says, "This calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints who obey God's commandments and remain faithful to Jesus." Back in 2019, we saw 70 nations come to Israel to renew their commitment to the Noahide laws. So, please, this isn't something small. While many consider this nothing or even good, there is a massive danger in how it can all play out. Things are lining up. Soon, people will be faced with drawing a line in the sand. 2 laws, one for the Jews and one for the Gentiles. Those will be what man gives you. You must choose to follow Yahweh and His Torah through faith in Yeshua. Just remember, at the time this plays out in history, it will cost you your life. Now, though I haven't found it myself, I've been told the Jewish Encyclopedia refers to Acts 15, yes, Acts 15, as support to their defense in saying new converts are to abstain from the Torah, thus supporting the Noahide laws. If you have any questions regarding Acts 15, please see our teaching, The Acts 15 Dilemma. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.